women caretake, and that's innately part of their system. But they don't always take care of themselves.
Totally. And that was another big takeaway for me personally after interviewing multiple doctors and researchers for this book and other clinicians, is that women in midlife, we have a really unique window to make changes that really will pay off later, and I'd say even, certainly anything you do in your 20s, your 30s, but tends to be in your 40s, your 50s, you sort of maybe your annual gynecology appointment, hopefully you're going to, but like oftentimes I've heard a doctor say the dog gets more veterinarian appointments than you do. And so it's right. A lot of people can relate to this, but it's like, gosh, the changes you make now will pay off later for your heart health, for your brain health. The more you can get into an exercise routine now, eating healthy, doing an assessment of all these chemicals we're exposed to try to be like, okay, what can I do to make changes that will pay off later, I think is another, hopefully when you get this book, you're going to be like, okay, what's the lowest hanging fruit for me? What can I do that's going to have the biggest payoff later on? Because that's the thing, these lifestyle habits that we hear about a million times, like they really do work.
So, and to your point, when you do things up front to have payoff down the line, I myself, have felt, just so much messaging on social media, which I have to live on for the work I do. Most people have accounts on social media, Instagram, they're seeing videos. And once you look at a video, you're going to get 100 more of the same category just because that's the way social media is programmed. So you end up almost getting like emotionally, or at least I'm speaking for myself, emotionally abused if you're not on HRT or hormone replacement therapy yet. And then you're like, oh, there's a window. I have to get it on, get into this. And then what about there's such, or even younger people like even my kids who get told that, at 16, they need to watch for wrinkles, or they have to worry about, their skin being soft. There's such an inundation of almost fear tied very much into product endorsements and, buying and purchasing. I want to know, as a journalist, how do you meter that out? I mean, how do you even meter out, even within the conversations you had with women that were excellent and well-trained? How do you meter that out when you talk to people and how you've written this book?
Yeah, I do something, and it's recommended for all of us to do something called lateral reading. So if I see a piece of information, what I do is open up a new browser and multiple windows in that browser. And then I'm Googling the information I'm learning. I'm seeing if other sources can corroborate that information. I'm also looking really closely at the source of the information. Do they have any ulterior motives when it comes to putting out the information they're putting out? What is their training? What is their background? What is their qualifications to be giving me this information? And it's something, there's a whole section in my book on how to suss out health information, because it's like you have to go through this information we're getting bombarded with, like a health journalist does. Like, what can I trust? And these are the steps I can take to understand if I can trust it or not. And also, frankly, there's a section in there like how to Google health symptoms like your doctor does, because our doctors are using search tools just like we do. They just have more education when it comes to what they can trust versus not, when it comes to the physiology and the research and the medical aspects that I certainly don't have, because I never went to med school like you did. And so, doctors even will give you tips on how they look for information that they might not know on the tip of their, head, or whatever that phrase is. Right. So I think we can all do that, and I'm even a proponent of talking to your doctor about it and like watching her search whatever you're dealing with, and then just saying like, okay, what are you looking for? What's the information that you can just like forget about? And then what's the stuff that I can trust?
Yeah, so you're basically just covering your bases. What I would tell my 16-year-old, when you're getting when you're getting information, where is that resource coming from? Whether it's politics in his case, or business information, or anything. I think it's like you said, we have to still do our due diligence. We can't relinquish our brains to other people and to the internet. And it's interesting. I literally, for a year or so, I did not want to use AI for any reason. Okay. So I just was one of those, and I I feel like I'm not alone in this as a physician, believe it or not, especially because I'm a little older than the newer generations coming out. But I just didn't really, I was almost in shame because I couldn't hold that much material in my brain with one question being answered. So there was a real stretch. I've started to prompt I think respected, kind of resources with my patients in the room. And I've been feeling that out. And it turns out that I'm getting more positive feedback from that than I ever would have imagined, as opposed to feeling like I'm wasting their money and time because now they could have done that themselves. But when we do it together, it's been really interesting because I'm prompting by showing them what I'm asking, how to do it, teaching them how to download. So what are your thoughts on AI being used, and what are the best ways that you have seen either physicians talking about it or you yourself as a journalist?
Yeah, well, the first thing, and this is also in my book, is that AI is biased, just like society is biased and sexist. AI relies on large language models that are pulling from sources that have historically been sexist, and left women out of the equation. And so know that going in, they are getting better, but have a little bit of like a healthy skepticism when you get the search results. I think also it's really important when it comes to your health, you can't just trust blindly what is being spit out, and likewise, you can't just let you spiral into the doom, oh my gosh, my life is over tonight, because you've gone a little bit too far down a rabbit hole on AI. I think really it comes back to, boy, you need to have clinicians, healthcare practitioners who you trust and who you can talk to. You can bring these health results or the search results to about your health and say, can I show you what I've learned here? Can you give me your take? Can we make a shared decision together about my next step forward? So that really, yeah, AI is great. And like healthy skepticism is essential.
Yeah, I don't think it's ready yet entirely, at least certainly on its own. But I think when people start incorporating it with either their healthcare, practitioner in the room, even if they were the one to initiate it, I think these are kind of going to be the way we're moving forward in a way that you want to be able to get all the information. And I will be honest with you, humans cannot hold a lot of that information and all of the specifics. And I think it's really useful. At least that's what I've seen. And I think that's where we're going to. But we have to be careful, right? Like you said.
We do. But you know what, Dr. Cohen, it's reminding me, I just had my annual physical and I think my doctor, she's amazing. I love my primary care physician. I wish a relationship like that on every woman. But, I think she was very present with me and she was taking notes, but I'm almost positive she spit all of what I said to her into some AI, whatever, hopefully HIPAA compliant, because my post-appointment notes looked very different than my last ones did. They looked a little AI generated. But I'm okay with that. Like a little recap of my appointment done by AI that allowed her to be more present with me in our appointment. Like that might be kind of a way that we see more doctors using AI, and it might not be such a bad thing.
Yeah, I find that interesting. And some patients are even asking for it. So, how am I going to take this information home? At this point, I'm like, well, it's our conversation and we're going to take notes, both of us. But technically it should save time and effort so that I could take away the time and effort so I could be more present, as you said, which is why I don't type while I'm seeing patients. I'm listening and then writing a little bit in between. So everyone's got their own style, but the world is changing quickly,
Sure
and
is.
certainly health information and meetings are going to be very different.